And here they are, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
Well, good planets are in the main, right?
And I had to make sure we got Legata in there, as you saw earlier before the show. Peggy knows that I tried to get Legata. The word of warning, folks: do not try to manipulate your cat. Your cat does not appreciate. Nope. Don't try that.
So Mike picks Legata up, tries to hold her in front of the mic, and suddenly she grew about 4 more legs, and she's like, "Get me out of here!"
Doc Ock. And there she was. Hey, good morning, everybody. Look at that lovely light that you got the shadow going right through the middle of your face. Yeah, well, you can. No, you want to be kind of mysterious. There you go. Wow, and it just changes the whole light when you move. The camera's adjusting to that.
I can fix it.
No. You don't need to fix it now. I mean, when you can't see, then you fix it. All right, and that's fine.
Well, it's this equinox thing or something. I'm facing west, and this is the sun coming over the house, hitting the neighbor's second floor window, and coming through.
'Tis the east. And Julie. Oh, you or west. Okay. Anyway.
What?
Anyway, I'm just.
Anyways, lots of people are saying happy spring, happy spring, happy spring.
Oh, and
Anne, Wayne, Kathy, Amos, Ernest from Portland, Oregon.
Oh yeah. Hey, Ernest. I'm glad you mentioned Ernest, because Ernest has been a follower of the show. Follower of the show for a long time. Back when I know from when I was at Progresso Radio, and quite possibly at Gargantua Radio down the dial. But I didn't realize he was following us on the stream. So, Ernest, thank you so much from Portland, Oregon. It's great to have you following us. And Zan's here, and Amos, and a bunch of the people you've got there.
Ernest says, yes, indeed. Yes, he is actually on Periscope.
You're the one. Okay, good. I go to Periscope.
He gets a ding.
It's interesting, because normally on Periscope we have like 20 people watch us on Periscope. When we had Nikki Jabbour on the program, who is a gardener out of Halifax, Nova Scotia, we had 600 views. So it shows you where Nikki's friends are. I mean, it's just So
her tribe's on Periscope, yes.
And our tribe is right now on YouTube and Facebook. But hey, a few folks watch us on the Twitter machine and or Twitter or whatever. I've grown to calling face whatever it is. I now call it Faceborg, because resistance is futile. Faceborg. I think that will be our new.
That is irrelevant.
Absolutely. Hey, have we got a great show? What?
Yeah, and I was going to say, let's tell everybody where we were yesterday.
Oh, right. Before we get to our great guests today, and by the way, get your rants on, folks. Get your rants, R-A-N-T-S, not pants, rants.
You can do that too.
But I don't even need my pants on right now, okay? I'm not telling you if they are on or not.
Don't tell us.
But get your rants on, because we have the Garden Rant folks here today, and we'll see if a few of you have some issues with your gardening and your gardens and people who promote gardening and whatever, all of it. So we'll get to that in a second. But yesterday we were at a fabulous concert. Yes, we went to a concert, and we were the stars. Peggy, tell us a little bit about that.
Virtually, of course.
Of course.
Well, last week we mentioned Chicago Community Gardeners Association was having their 8th annual conference. The team did an incredible job. They used a platform called Hopin,
which I had never heard of.
Yeah, but it had conference rooms, breakout rooms, sessions, networking, exhibit areas, music, videos. It was just they did an outstanding job, and we presented at lunchtime, basically.
and we were talking about Chicago Excellence in Gardening Awards. Yes, which will be happening for 2021. And the good news is the 60-second garden video challenge is back. And you can enter a video of your garden from anywhere in the world. We don't care because we don't have to go out personally and judge it. And the rules are going to be pretty much the same as last year. Keep it under 60 seconds. And show us what you got, and then it's People's Choice Awards.
Or we get the hook. Yeah. Right.
Exactly. Well, if you're over 60 seconds, we either give you a call and say chop it, or we'll do it ourselves. And the idea is show us your garden and be as creative as possible. And we're doing it in 2 sections this year, because for gardening award programs, what we always hear, and I think I mentioned this last week, people saying, you don't do the spring. You should have seen what my garden looked like in May, because the judges.
It was beautiful. It was unbelievable.
And now it stinks, in July.
The slugs ate it.
Right. So that is what we're doing. We're doing 2 sections. One is called spring. One is called summer. I made up those terms. And
wow.
Yes, thank you. The spring is May and June, summer's July and August. So there'll be 2 sections. So show us your spring garden or show us your summer garden. Some people, I do better in spring. My garden is fabulous in spring. And then it's sort of, it's not bad, but it gets better. It gets worse. Let's put it that way as the season goes on.
And you can win accolades and fancy prizes. Right.
We've got Wally prizes and some cash awards, some rain barrels to get. Oh, well, we think. We have to talk to the MWRD, but they're really good about giving us rain barrels to give out. And again, anywhere in the world you can submit. We had more than 13,000 views last year, which was really cool. Let's double it this year. Which will make our lives miserable, but that's okay. That's our job, is to be miserable, because we're gardeners. And it starts.
That's a rant.
That's a rant right there. But that's inside baseball rant, about having to do things like that. But the contest will start May 1st. All the information will be at chicagogardeningawards.org. So stand by for that. And the other thing we're going to talk about today, but we'll do it when we get our first guests on here, is the City Grange event, which is in its final day today. It's been Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. What is it? The Great Grow
Along.
Grow Along. I was going to say the Great
Grow Along.
I was going to say the Great Grow Off. It's not the Great Grow Off.
Grow Along.
On my program
Grow
once,
along.
I had the Great Bracked Off. I wanted people to get bracked off, and it was about trying to get. They did. It was about trying to get your poinsettias to re-bloom or re-bract, get color in the bracts, because you have to jump through hoops of horticultural fire to make that happen. So anyway, that said, we will get to the Great Grow Along in a second. I think we need to get to the heart of the program right now. So let's bring in our guests. That woman you see there on the lower left, who's getting into place there, is Susan Harris.
Hi.
And on her right is Marianne Willburn. Hi, Marianne.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Peggy. Hi, Susan.
It's that's right. Say hi to everybody. Everybody just wave and say hi to everybody else. These are the Garden Rant folks, and just a couple of them. And you'd have to go a long way back on my show to know my history with Garden Rant. It does go back a ways. But I'm going to let you give us very quickly, Susan, the elevator speech for Garden Rant for folks who are uninitiated. And if you haven't heard of Garden Rant, why not? Why haven't you? I guess you don't. I guess you don't cruise
There's
the internet.
A rant right there.
Yeah. All right. Everything's a rant, Peggy.
Right. Write that down.
Actually, one of the questions I'm going to ask
later. Where's your trowel?
Oh, right. All right. Trowels out, everybody. All right.
Trowels out.
Marianne. Marianne doesn't have a trowel because she needs to borrow internet from her. I'm surprised you're not you're not in the parking lot of a McDonald's grabbing the internet from that, Marianne.
It's almost like that.
I know.
It's almost like that.
Well, I'll tell you what, before we get to the elevator speech, Marianne, tell us why you have to borrow internet from a friend.
Well, we just don't have the infrastructure in the north. You would think we're 60 miles outside of DC, and we don't exist in terms of internet, except for our entire lives are supposed to be run through the internet now, including my children's textbooks. So it is frustrating. However, there is hope because Elon Musk has promised some really amazing things with satellites. So we are on that list. And when he starts doing his magic, we will be, I'm going to be in my own office, roosters behind me, and
garden trowel in hand.
But
my friends will be so happy.
It is kind of interesting though. Like you said, you're 60 miles outside of Washington D.C. and you have one of you is, I think that's you, and Marianne, your mic is clicking quite a bit there. It's a little scratchy there. Let's see. We'll see if that's the one. All right, I think it is. Yeah, sorry about that. Don't strangle yourself with that. But there you are, and having to borrow from a friend so that you can get a good internet connection so we can do this. And as I mentioned to you the other day, I'm hoping that this new act that got passed, the $1.9 trillion bill, will provide some internet service to poor people like you, to sad, unhappy people in the boonies who have nothing better to do than write garden rants and write books, and we'll get to that in a second. But I imagine, though, with the children and the schooling, that had to have been kind of frustrating.
Very, and when we first moved there, it didn't bother me at all because I'm just not an internet-focused person. So it didn't bother me, but our lives have really changed, and just even in the last 6-7 years, in terms of what we need, what the world expects of us, and then Zoom, obviously.
Yeah. Tell us about it, Zoom. Yes. All right, let's go to our other guest, who is one of the founders of Garden Rant, and I've known her for a while, and that's Susan Harris. And give us your background. I actually didn't get the background completely from Marianne, but it'll come out in dribs and drabs. I'm really bad at this sort of introduction thing, but go ahead, Susan.
Well, I started garden blogging in 2005, and a year later, we had myself and Amy Stewart and Michelle Owens started a team blog called Garden Rant, and with the audacious tagline of uprooting the gardening world, and of course the name is pretty audacious too, but we wanted there to be a place for opinion writing and a place to cover controversy, and just to be an alternative to how-to writing, which we didn't find particularly fulfilling to do. So as I say, it's been 15 years. We're celebrating 15 years now with a brand new design and two great new partners. Dan Hinckley is well known to many in this country, and Anne Wareham is well known in England. Mm-hmm. So we're celebrating. We're still ranting, and it changes over time. But Marianne joined us. I think less than a year ago, and she's been a great new partner. Has really been instrumental in moving us into a new design, and we're rejuvenated over here. Thanks for letting me gush on about it.
I didn't realize you needed to be rejuvenated.
We did.
Oh, okay. Well, that's actually something I want to talk to you. But you have a cast of characters, as you said. You had 4 people at the outset, and they were yourself and Elizabeth Licata and Amy Stewart and Michelle Owens. And Amy and Michelle have both been on my show. Michelle actually got in some trouble on the social media when she was on my show. Yeah, you're nodding, and she said something about dog
and that
poop.
was back in 2010 or something.
Yeah, it was
a long time ago.
And then it was at that point that I realized how dangerous the internet really is. I didn't at the time. I thought, oh, I'm a guard. And I had been on the radio at that point for 13 years, and had never had anything like that happen. But once you get involved,
Wow.
once you get involved in the internet, then things go haywire.
And I'll know what happens with tweets. Yes.
Well, it's a lot easier for somebody to dash off a tweet or a comment on Facebook than it is for them to pick up a phone and call a radio show and get questioned one-to-one on whatever their opinion might be. So it's this, and there's a lot of people have written about this, the anonymity of what you're doing, and it just, in some ways, has led to a culture of people always on the edge, always ready to rant, I guess.
As a writer, I would say that I'm always trying to watch my back and frankly, and try to anticipate what someone might be angry, how something I'm writing might anger someone, and can that be fixed? So because I don't want to get into battles. Really.
Well, I don't really either, and I'm terrified. I'm going to say something stupid, but I'm sure I do each week. And then when I do, I try to correct myself the next time around. We say dumb things. We've led people astray, and then we come back the next week and say, hey, that might have been wrong. Let's re-examine that. Marianne, have you had that happen to you?
I have really tried to call for moderation when I'm just watching some of the stuff that has happened, not just in the culture as a whole, but in our industry too. Mm-hmm. And to help people realize that nobody's pure enough. We're all human beings. We're all going to make mistakes. We're going to flub up. People don't know exactly what's in our minds, and so. A few rants that I've done have been like, "Hey guys, let's realize we're all human." So far, I don't even want to touch wood and say that I haven't been.
Well, you got into trouble.
I'll say something tonight.
You got into trouble with Scott Buerlein, and that's.
Oh well, that's different.
That's it.
That was one of those things.
Writer family.
Yeah, that was different. Scott and I, he wrote an article for Horticulture, and that was back in August, almost 2 years ago, and he was ticking off British garden writers and saying that there was no place for them in American gardens for American gardeners. Now, he was doing it in fun.
Yes, he was.
And he totally was doing it in fun. But I was just in the right mood to just answer him in fun. And I was just really fortunate that I could call Susan and say, hey, could I put my answer up on Garden Rant? And she said, oh, yeah, absolutely. and so Scott was sort of blindsided, poor lad. But he's done things to me in the past when we both spoke at a conference several years ago. He got me a couple times, and we belly laughed over it. But I'm like, okay, you're due. So, and we've been going back ever since. He rebutted me, I rebutted him. He rebutted me again, and then we started a correspondence. So we've got this digital correspondence now where he'll write me a letter, I'll write him a letter. It goes out on Garden Rant. Neither one of us sees it before it hits that
oh my gosh,
that screen.
Oh my gosh.
And so when I know a letter's coming, because he'll text me and say,
no,
on its way.
You know a letter's
and
coming
I'll pick
because
up my
you feel
coffee.
Oh yeah. I was going to say
There's
probably
something
feel
in the universe.
Yeah, right. There's an aura that happens at that point.
And he's good, boy. He's good. He came out to Washington last year and roasted me. Was it year before last? and he roasted me, and he's good at it.
Well, he is, but so are you. I wouldn't want to take on either of you. Okay, I don't want to be. And Susan's saying the same thing. It's like neither of us wants to go down that road. But the thing is, you wrote about, you were defending the British and their books and their ways, and there's one thing that saves the British, and it's nothing you mentioned in any of your rants. It's this.
Alan, ow, Alan.
Okay. So that's what saves the British right there. That the BBC.
I've never seen that.
You have never seen that? Have you seen that before, Susan?
Never seen that. You remember my internet connection, right?
I thought you were going to say Monty.
Monty. No.
Now for something completely different, or that too.
Yeah, I could do some Monty Python in there, but no. But there are no. That's from the BBC. They had this. This. You have to go look this up. Okay, write this down, Marianne. Write down Alan BBC, and you'll go right to the site. And they have a bunch.
So is that Alan Titchmarsh that they're talking about?
I think it's just some generic Alan. The idea is a bunch of animals. Go ahead, Peggy.
Yeah. I was going to say, so the BBC has a bunch of animals doing not weird things, but weird things.
They voice them.
But they have voiceover on them, all of them.
Yeah.
They've got birds, they've got all sorts of things, and they're a stitch, as it were. They're hysterical.
Alan, ow, Alan.
Why is that making me laugh so hard?
Because it makes everybody laugh. Okay,
because you're on the Mike Nowak show.
That's right. There you go. All right, let's go back to.
Can we take a quick step back?
Sure.
For listeners who might not know what a garden rant is, what does it mean? What is it?
Okay, so I'm going to, as I pop this up, Susan, you can give us that elevator speech. There is that brand new, spanking brand new logo.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, that shows that we don't have flowers. We have tools because we are gardeners, and that's what it's about. Yeah, so we have a manifesto, and we have opinions, and we don't always agree, which is fine. Well, I would say I rant often about over generalization about plants and about gardening practices that can sometimes do more harm than good or aren't as good. It's easier to sell a slogan like leave the leaves is a slogan that's easy to say, but it's much harder to, in certain situations, you can leave the leaves.
Oh, I'm going to pop this back. Let's go back to everybody here. That's interesting that you should say that because, that's one of the things we talk about, but you're right. Mm-hmm. One of the points you're making here is there is a thing called nuance. And in the world, there is a thing called nuance, and a lot of people don't pay attention to nuance. Certainly, political arguments lack nuance nowadays, and so do some of the gardening ones, don't they?
It's hard to market in a nuanced way. I mean, we all understand, but yeah. So that's fun to do to rant about. We've ranted about. PR campaign. Amy Stewart had a notorious rant about a PR company that was producing all these, lollipops, literally, and all this non-green, expensive campaign and sending it to all the bloggers. So, and that was Steppables.
Wait. Lollipops. When you say lollipops, what do you mean?
They actually sent us lollipops. Yeah.
Candy.
In the shape of with the Steppables logo.
Okay. Wow.
So she was trying to teach them how to better market to bloggers. Yeah, and I've been very critical of Scott's Miracle-Gro. So since it's spring, I'll mention that there's so much. So something that I've one of my favorite topics is to rail against high maintenance, high input lawn care, especially when you don't actually have to do what Scott tells everyone on TV in the spring is to green up their lawn now, and that's that's not the best way to do it. in terms of nutrient overflow in the bay and all of those issues. So anyway, I recommend people go to Cornell and follow they have high maintenance lawn care advice if you need it, like if you're a golf course, but low maintenance for most people. So so I'll always love to throw that in the face of Scott's Miracle-Gro and say, no, just ignore them and do less. I think the Cornell slogan is for lawn care, do less.
Yeah, and this is something I've railed about for 20-something years now.
Good.
Yeah.
Good, good.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, we just got a comment, Scott's does nothing good.
Wow.
Popped in.
That's from one this guy who just wrote that works for a garden center. All right. All right. And
He works for their competitor. No, I'm kidding.
no, he doesn't. He's independent, and it's an independent garden center, and that's the other thing we tell people is stop buying your plants at box stores, okay? Sure, you can make, again, if we're going to argue in favor of nuance, yeah, there are times you might, but in general, I would say go buy your shovel, go buy your trowel at a box store, fine with me. Your plants and getting your advice, go to your local independent garden center, and if you don't, they're going to go the way of bookstores. I can't wait for Amazon to get into the horticultural business.
Well, it kind of is.
They are.
Are they shipping plants now too?
Yeah, you can
Yes.
get plants.
Well, see, I don't know. I don't
it's the
use
vendors.
Amazon.
It's the vendors that have stores set up within Amazon.
Well, then somebody ought to rant about that, because that's an issue as well. But getting back to lawns, as you say, you actually said this, and I use this in a garden talk that I do, Susan, that this is one of some of the most damage that any company has done is Scott's in telling people that they must have fertilizer to green up their lawn in the spring. And what I say to people, hey, guess what lawns do in the spring? They green up, and they do it before you pound down 28% by volume fertilizer on your lawn. And of course, as we know, as you alluded to, most of that runs off into our lakes and streams, goes into Lake Erie in particular. And we have,
You know what? I just wrote an article on this, actually, Mike, for American Gardener, and some of it was on Garden Rant. We put a little excerpt on it. And what you're talking about, it creates the wrong conversation. So we have one extreme or the other, where we have an incredible push to have these perfect lawns, or everybody else is saying, don't have a lawn at all. And because it's a terrible thing.
That's crazy.
Right? And we want lawns. There's so many wonderful reasons to have them. So we need to have a different conversation, which is that you don't have to do all this to your lawn to have a wonderful open space. And there are a lot of organic methods that really do work, that are very, very minimal and just keep you with that open space, that mass and void that we have to have in any landscape. But we're just creating the wrong conversation.
Right, and folks see these pictures on TV of what is the perfect lawn.
Right.
And the other problem here is when you talk about natural lawn care or organic lawn care, however you want to label it, and there's a spectrum of care you can do for your lawn. The problem is those people don't have the money to blast commercials on television and radio the way the big company namely Scott's does. And so you don't hear that side of the argument. All you hear is, oh my God, I better get my fertilizer out right now for my lawn because it's March, and boy, I better pound that into the ground because nothing's going to come up unless I do that. And that's just a terrible message. It's just a
There's also a very large message from the HOAs, from the housing associations, that are pushing these sort of perfect lawns without weeds. And that is really tough on homeowners that don't know any different.
Right. So I'm curious, too, there seems to be a gender factor here. Mike, what do you think? This seems to appeal to men, to have them to be competitive about their perfect lawns.
Yeah, and it's tied to when you see these commercials, the idea of being a good neighbor. You can't be a good citizen or a good neighbor unless you have a perfect lawn. Otherwise, you're actually a bad person. If there's a dandelion, if for God forbid clover, which is a nitrogen fixer, taking free nitrogen out of the air, putting it in the ground for free.
Violets.
Yeah, violets. Yeah, you can't have any of that. Peggy, you were going to say something, then we're going to break here. No? Oh, you had something there. I'm sorry. I apologize.
I had some brilliant word of wisdom that's gone.
It's just completely gone. Okay. Those are our garden ranters, Susan Harris and Marianne Willburn. As we said, and I see something about jumping worms.
There's a rant that was just posted. Yes.
I would love to talk jumping. Are you guys familiar with jumping worms?
I am, yes.
I am. Susan isn't. Okay, you and I, Marianne, we can rant about that a little bit.
We'll leave it on this rant, and we'll come back. How did yet another harmful insect from a foreign country end up in the United States?
How did they end up in my backyard in Logan Square in the heart of Chicago is what I want to know. All right, it's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. We'll be right back. At this time of year, we spend a lot of time indoors with our plants, so help them thrive. The plants you're viewing were treated with Leafzyme, a foliage spray designed to activate beneficial microbes already present on the leaves. A spritz every few weeks promotes growth-enhancing microorganisms that process dust and other particles into nutrition that indoor plants can absorb through their leaves for beautiful and vigorous growth. Go to blazing-star.com and check out their BioGarden line for home gardeners.
You can help slow climate change in 2021 by composting, and you don't even need a backyard. By composting communally in multi-unit buildings across Chicagoland, Collective Resource Compost has diverted 7,000 tons of food scrap since 2010. CRC brings you a fresh 5-gallon bucket or a 32-gallon neighbor tote with each pickup. You fill it with organic matter, they swap it out, and get it to a commercial composting operation. Fight climate change. Go to collectiveresource.us.
And Peggy, I'm going to let you handle this because I don't have it loaded up here and I haven't actually read through it yet. So tell us.
Okay. Well, hey, the Evanston Environmental Association's virtual Wild and Scenic Film Festival continues on March 26th, and you can be there from your home. The final evening's film lineup includes the story of how some Ethiopians are protecting the biodiversity of old-growth woods via church forests, one community's efforts to close the largest East Coast oil refinery after an explosion, and a glimpse of what it might actually look like for conservation to include all people, even those that normally are in the margins. Now, the festival takes place from 6:30 to 9 p.m. on March 26th, and tickets are still available starting at just $10. All proceeds from the festival support the operations and programming of the Evanston Ecology Center. So for more info and to register for the March 26th end to the film festival, visit evanstoninvironment.org/filmfest.
Or as Bill Curtis would say, environment. Environment. Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. And we're talking to garden ranters Susan Harris, Marianne Wilson. You can go to Willburn, not Wilson. We're talking to E.O. Wilson today on today's show, and how did he get? Wow, it's such an honor to have you here.
Wow. And we're ready to go.
The house will burn. That's how I always
rant.
Right. And just as I was about to give out the website, gardenrant.com, it's that simple. I should mention there's a ton of stuff on there. You can, if you like going down rabbit holes, this is a great place. Marianne Wilson's.
As opposed to Marianne Williamson.
Yeah, okay.
I don't mind it too much.
Yeah, well, Marianne Willburn's rants,
MWs.
yeah, I guess, are just, that thing you have going with Scott is really fun. I have to admit, after reading that, now I want him on my show, and what we're going to do is I'm going to tell him, you get on the show and on camera, we'll open the bottle and we'll just drink from the bottle. I think this is going to be what we're going to do at 9 a.m. And he's it's in the same time zone. This is one of the other reasons I believe he is. Cincinnati's in the are they in the Eastern? Maybe they're in. Oh, that's okay, but he's not.
No. They're.
Are they in Central? I think they're in Central.
Mike, let me know when you do this so I can be there to taunt him. I just want to. If you could just let me know ahead of time.
I will absolutely let you know ahead of time about that.
And everyone can get their mimosas ready at that point.
Right. So let's go quickly to I want to get back to compost tea since we're talking about nuance. I saw that up there, and that I had a flashback when I went to Garden Rant and saw the post about compost tea, because I had this argument with people, and I have had it over the last decade, about the efficacy of compost.
What side are you on?
I'm on the side of buyer beware. Okay? Really, no, I tell folks at garden centers, first of all, you got to understand, if you buy a jug of brown water at a garden center, that's probably what you're buying, a jug of brown water. All right? I have friends who swear by compost tea and say, I brew it myself and I apply it and you can see the results. I started an organization called the Midwest Ecological Landscape Alliance in Chicago. We had conferences where people would tout compost tea and they would show the photos, and I would go, well, okay. That's what Jeff Lowenfeld says. I look at the photos and I look at the results, and it looks like it works to me. And then Jeff Gillum, who is another guy I'm terrified of, just as I am the two of you, and especially Linda Chalker Scott. I'm just I'm terrified of all of you. But Jeff Gillum comes back and says, no, I don't believe in it. I don't think it's working, and you might as well put compost down. And I actually went to an arborist convention, I want to say a decade ago, maybe not quite that long ago, at the Morton Arboretum here, and they said, okay, here's the compost tea, here's putting compost done, and here's the not the standard, but what's the baseline you call it, the in a science. Control, thank you. Control group. So here's a control in the science. Here's compost tea. Here's compost. If you put compost down, look at the results. Here's the control and here's the compost tea. We don't see a lot of difference. And I've seen things like that. So when people ask me about compost tea, I say, well, I used to advocate using it, and now I say, if you know what you're doing, maybe you could try it and then write a paper on it and show us how it works.
Maybe in some applications.
Who knows? But for the most part, I say you're better off using compost if you want to have that sort of biology in your soil. Would you disagree, Susan or Marianne?
Oh,
I wouldn't disagree.
I wouldn't either. And that was a special feature that we had. I think when Garden Rant was really new, and it was fun to actually initiate a debate, and on the topic. And so I saw that. I've been kind of going over. We had thousands of posts that we'd written over the 15 years, and I found what were the ones that had the most impact. And so I asked both of the Jeffs for an update on that. And so far, we've heard from Jeff Gilman. And I thought his response was very interesting too, talking about the state of gardening information today and how he'd like to see a stronger role for science-based information, of course.
Well,
I was going to say, for our listeners, Jeff and Jeff are from the Garden Professors?
Well, Jeff Gillum is from the Garden Professors,
okay.
And Jeff Lowenfels wrote Teeming with Microbes, which I will say, and Jeff agrees with me, Jeff Gillum agrees with me, is if you want to learn about what's going on in your soil, pick up that book. It changed my life as a gardener. It's one of... Really, it does. I mean, once you understand the concept of the soil food web, it just changes the way you deal with your garden completely. I mean, and that's part... Who wanted to jump in? Sorry.
I was going to add one more thing with the compost tea. I think that if it gets people excited in gardening too, there's that aspect of it. Like the novelty aspect of it. If it actually gets them building compost piles to create compost tea, instead of buying it off the shelf. I don't even understand that, how you buy it off the shelf. I mean, I don't buy, I don't buy apple juice off the shelf. There's no goodness in it, right? So I can't even imagine how you do that. But if it gets people composting and using that compost in different ways, I don't think it's going to do a harm. But,
Well, and that seems to be the ultimate conclusion I come to, and others have, is that it might not be doing any harm, but it seems to me a lot of work. So why wouldn't I just put compost down? It does. I mean, getting the bubbler. I have a bubbler in my garage. I've used it once, I think, in a dozen years, and I'm a little embarrassed by it. But all of us buy stuff that we try once and then discard.
Put it in the garage. Yeah.
It's in the garage, unfortunately. So I don't even know.
I'm just trying to put forward some argument for the defense. I just feel it's not being represented.
Well, it's probably not. It's not being represented well here. I have to admit that. And
that's the best I could come up with.
What can I tell you? But it's about nuance, and that was what one of the things that Jeff wrote back. Jeff Gillum, and I keep forgetting. There's two Jeffs here. There's too many Jeffs. Jeff wrote, and go to gardenrant.com, and you can see the whole argument as it laid out. There's 4 posts, I believe. And now I've forgotten exactly what I was going to... Oh, I remember. He said he's mellowed as the years have gone by. He says...
Like compost tea.
Yeah, and he says that in the old days, this would describe him...
What a jerk.
Okay, this is, what he... and now he says to himself...
Don't be a jerk.
Okay, and by the way... but that's interesting because basically he said, I've mellowed a little bit. I'm not as harsh as I used to be about this whole thing. And I think that's a good way to go, as long as you don't give up your scientific principles. And that's what he says also. It's like, let's trust the science on this. And given what has happened to us in the last 4 years, and in particular the last year in regard to science and the way people respond to it, I think we as garden writers have an obligation to err on the side of science, even though we're talking about gardening, where there have been home remedies and Ma said to do this, and I tell people your mom's advice was wrong. What can I tell you? I'm very sorry about that, but there are home remedies that work, and they're based in some kind of science that goes back. So you have to research this and do it right. Susan, I'd like you to address that a little bit, if you would.
Well, it reminds me, I ranted about this. There was an article in my local paper by a city employee in charge of environmental stewardship, proclaiming that native plants had deeper roots than non-native plants. Right. and he made I and some others wrote a letter to the city department saying, well, not according to science. And so we asked them just in the future, if they're writing about something, to say according to, and then maybe go to, I live very close to the University of Maryland, which has a very good extension service. and website. And then we've got, Cornell and NC State and Penn State are all really great ones in this region. So I said, why don't you go to a good academic source and then see what they say and not just kind of make stuff up because it sounds good.
And I love that article. And again, it's one of the articles I forgot to mention in my blog post. But yeah, you go after the idea that there are a lot of people out there saying things about native plants and how wonderful native plants are, and are kind of missing the mark. They're not necessarily wrong about using those plants, but why they should use them is kind of missing the mark.
Context.
Yeah. And I wish I could find that right now, but it's a terrific post you made about that.
Well, and I was happy to see that a local grower of native plants said he agreed with every word, and because misinformation about native plants was a problem for his business, because people had unrealistic or wrong expectations about how the plants they bought from him were going to perform.
And interesting you should say that, because we're in the middle of a battle, which I should actually write about, for Garden Rant in Chicago about the notorious weed law. And there are many of these weed laws across the country where you can be fined for plants above a certain height. In Chicago, it happens to be 10 inches, and that's sort of some kind of magic number that appeared decades ago, and then municipalities all over the country adopted it. Try to find a native plant, or any plant, that is shorter than 10 inches. And yet the city can come to your house and they can issue you a ticket, and they can fine you $600 to $1,200 for growing a plant above that height, or a weed.
It's a weed. And
their definition of a weed is a plant out of place. Wow, that works in a legal setting, doesn't it? Yeah. And now the city council in Chicago has come up with what they call a native. They're trying to do. The problem is they're trying to do a work around a very bad ordinance. The weed ordinance is very bad. So what's their workaround? Their workaround is, we'll start a native plant registry, which you can sign up for. Your name will be on the list. And so when the inspectors come to town, they have to look at this list and see that you're on it. And if you're on it, then they won't fine you for growing those plants in your yard, unless you don't have exactly a 2 or 3 foot setback, whichever they decide it's going to be, and unless whatever other caveats they have in the native plant registry.
Unless you've got plants that aren't on that list, whoever came up with the list.
And Marianne, I see you going, what? And
I have so many thoughts and hardly the words to express them.
Well, I think there's a rant right here. Mike needs to write a guest rant, Susan.
Agreed.
But Marianne,
Agreed.
what pops into your head?
Well, I mean, first off, where there's no spontaneity, there's this absolutely crushes and smothers that creative spirit in the gardener. You have to be on a list in order to have a certain plant in your yard at a certain height.
Yep.
I mean, I'd be breaking laws. I'd be breaking them to a second. I mean, there's just no way. And that kind of thing, it just takes away from the gardener's spirit and why we're out there and why we're working. And it makes it a bureaucratic, administrative nightmare. I don't have enough contempt to aim at that. Mike, please, Mike, take some time, write a rant for us, send it to Susan.
I am definitely gonna have to do that.
Okay,
now, see,
the trowel has been thrown down.
Right, and this is Marianne's response to the city.
Shut up, Wesley.
Okay, there we go.
Yes. Oh boy.
Yeah, I've been in meetings. I have talked to some of the people who are putting this thing together.
Oh, we sat through that town hall a couple weeks ago.
There was a town hall about it, and there was a lot of blowback from gardeners, and rightly so, about this. There are so many holes in this, and the argument right now is that, well, we really can't, streets and sanitation does the weed, enforces the weed ordinance. And those guys aren't trained at all. They don't know the difference between an overgrown lawn and a native garden, which is why we need this native plant registry. There's just so much that can go wrong. What I see happening is Streets and Sand shows up. They go, oh, look at the weeds. Okay, and they write you up. And then you go to the administrative court and you say, no, I'm on the list. But already you've had to go to the administrative court. You've spent the time, the energy, perhaps some money to defend your position. There's just so many ways it can go wrong. And as you say, Marianne, it stifles the gardener. As somebody pointed out in the town hall, you could grow a tulip and it's going to be over 10 inches tall. And in fact, legally, you don't even have the right to plant a tulip in your parkway.
It's not native.
No, it has nothing to do with natives. It's more than 10 inches tall. You can't grow it in the park. You can't grow anything in the parkway, theoretically, without the city's permission, because that is city-owned property. So this is a situation we have where they could come and ticket me today, right now, and I wouldn't be surprised. But then I want you, if you're doing that, I want you ticketing everybody who has a yew or a juniper, any kind of foundation shrub. You might as well do that too. Why don't we just ticket every house in the city, and then you guys can make a lot of money, and the city won't be starved for cash anymore. So. I guess I kind of
the road to hell is often paved with good intentions, and this is a really good example of that. You just can't legislate for good taste, for one, because it's different for everybody, and one person's wildflower meadow is another person's complete weedy mess.
Yeah.
And we need to realize that. I remember so clearly a friend of mine talking about coming into an HOA neighborhood nearby, and she was with her cousin, and she went into this gorgeous new housing association, and one of the houses in the front had this beautiful, effusive, sort of cottagey garden, and it stood in stark relief to all of those yew and juniper and magenta azaleas. And she said, my God, the garden is so beautiful. And her cousin said, well, I think there's something to be said for uniformity in these neighborhoods. I mean, how do you do? The people feel like that, but they are the ones who are going to do that legislation. They're the ones who are going to try and get you to not have that big bunch of biodiversity right there. Mm-hmm. Again, not enough contempt.
And you know what? I'm going to get myself in trouble here because as I said, I've been talking behind the scenes with some of the lawmakers about this and being very, very calm and saying, you got some issues here. We ought to address these. And then I come on the radio and say, oh, this thing is just terrible. It's the worst thing ever. It's not going to work. So we'll see. All right.
Speaking of contempt, what about Martha Stewart?
Are you? Now I'm going to get in trouble, huh? Okay, so I need to make something clear. I don't actually have any contempt for Martha Stewart herself. I think that she is brilliant at what she does. Taste just pouring out of every orifice in her body. She's a fantastic,
Martha Stewart
writer.
Yep.
Yeah, she's a good thing.
Yeah,
got it. My massive issue, and I had one, and you can go back and read about it in the new garden series that was done in the middle of a pandemic from her 153-acre garden, where she was in lockdown with one of her drivers, one of her housekeepers, and her head gardener. And she wanted to relate to the rest of us. Yeah. And she's doing her FaceTiming with Snoop Dogg and Richard Gere and something Bieber
and whoever
one
else.
Of the Biebers. and you know what, I don't have a problem with it as a Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous piece because it's a beautiful estate. Some of the things that they're doing there are just gorgeous, but I refuse to see how having a granite pathway being built to her peacock enclosure bears any resemblance to average gardeners and average lots. And this is important, during this pandemic, it's not just about what's happening right now, it's about what is going to be happening economically to people who have seen their dreams pulled away. And I have experienced that. We've had large layoffs, we've had recession, we've had tech busts that really set our dreams backwards 50 steps, and through no fault of our own. And this is going to be very, very difficult for people to cope with mentally, and to have something like that on television as the only G in HGTV is just, it's wrong. So I don't have any problem with Martha Stewart.
It's off target.
It misses it. Yeah.
You know what my feeling is? Don't direct your ire at Martha. Direct it at HGTV, which gave up on the G a decade ago, and I gave them up a long. I don't even care anymore. You're not a guy. And these transformation things, makeover things, are just so annoying. Just about as annoying as you can get. And Susan, you wrote about it. You didn't go after Martha quite as much, but you did correct her on a couple of things she got wrong.
Well, isn't the title of this show "Martha Knows Best"? And I just said, no, I don't think she does. But no, my approval was basically out of desperation to see some gardening content, especially this year of all years. So I was just so happy to see something. I wanted to support it, frankly. And I love, watching her estate is like garden porn. So I was
absolutely.
I needed it.
But you know what? You did say, you pointed out something very important, because it's something I talk about I do a garden talk called "Everything You Know About Gardening Is Wrong," and it's about myths, garden myths. And if you type in garden myth into a search engine, there are 17 billion entries you will get. There are more garden myths than there are actual truths. Well, I guess that makes sense. But one of them is about pots and putting gravel in the bottom of a pot to improve the drainage, and it does exactly the opposite. And you said that Martha did that on her show, and it's a hard one to get out of people's heads. They go, no, you really should put gravel at the bottom of the pot. It's going to help. But science, physics tells you that won't work.
Well, I'm curious to see what Marianne would say about this, because I know she covered it in her book about tropicals, and including how to grow them in pots. Right?
Which I'm glad you said that, because, thank you so much, because there we go. There's the plug.
There's the beautiful book.
Tell us about that.
And we'll get to have you back when the book's out.
Yeah, hopefully at some point. It's sitting in a port somewhere. I don't know quite which one at the moment, but a friend in England has just received it. So it's getting to the UK at least. That's good. And probably New Zealand and Australia right now.
Oh, and they'll love it.
Yes, This is to try and help people who are looking at some tropical accents in other people's gardens and thinking, "Oh wow, I want a little piece of that," but they feel really worried. Yeah, there's a Enseti there, ventricosum. That is the red Abyssinian banana, and that is one of the plants. Yeah, thank you. That's Enseti ventricosum morellii, and a lot of gardeners use it to make some really bold accents. And other gardeners who've never used tropicals come along and say, "Hey."
And you're saying use them in your garden during the season, but then you have to bring them in, unlike Scott did, and he left his poor canna out to die.
He left his canna out to die. But he was actually playing into a lot of what I talk about in the book, because you don't have to go all in with tropicals. And I keep going back to this, Irvin Etienne says he's a big tropical plant enthusiast, closer to you guys, and he says it doesn't always have to be marriage and a picket fence when it comes to plants. And that is what this book is about. It's figuring out what your relationship is with certain groups of plants, how to cope with them. It gives detailed instructions on how to overwinter them as easily as possible, and you'd be surprised at how easy that actually can be. And then if you're done, be done.
Yeah. Throwing tropicals in is, I've done that. When you got a space in the garden. And if you don't want
your 6-foot avocado tree.
My 6-foot avocado tree, or my wild variegated ginger, or the variegated ginger, tropical variegated ginger, which is my favorite plant in the world right now. And you find a spot, you go, just pop it in the garden for a while, and then bring it in.
How's that?
Although you got to remember to bring it in. Yeah. So
you do, and you have a little more leeway than you think. But you're up in Chicago. A lot of people will think, "Oh gosh, we can't do it up here. It's too cold." That's
are you saying year round you can leave some of those tropicals in?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean not in Chicago.
Okay.
Although you guys might be real zone close for Musa basju, the hardy banana, which is theoretically supposed to go to zone 5. I think it's more like 6.
Hardy banana.
We'll see. Do you have it?
Okay.
No,
I don't. I'm just doing my hardy.
You're going to get yourself in trouble very quickly.
I think that says it's time to wrap up the hour.
We got to wrap up. One thing before we go, because our next guest is sitting by very patiently. She's smiling at me there in preview. One of the things that you do, Susan, is you write about White House gardens, and we don't have time to really go into it. You can go to gardenrant.com and read your posts about White House gardens, but the quick question is, did the Trumps screw up the Rose Garden, or is that just bad press?
I think it's mainly bad press.
Okay.
Yes, but I have pledged to go there the very first time that the Bidens open it for a spring or fall garden day, and I want to check it out in person and give it a chance to settle in, because it was this brand new landscape installed in August, for Christ's sake. So I wouldn't judge it right away.
Great idea. August in D.C. set up a new landscape. Yeah. Yeah, that's the time you want to do
Brilliant.
it. Susan Harris, Marianne Willburn Williamson. It's one of.
I gotta change my name. I'm just gonna change it. It'll make it easier.
I can't tell you how many times I had, as I was typing, I had to go back. It starts with a W something. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Can we do this again at some point? Would that be okay with you guys?
You bet.
The Garden Rant 15th anniversary. Go to gardenrant.com. Like I said, you'll enjoy going down the rabbit hole and
sign up for the newsletter.
And you're going to be hearing from me, Susan. I have a couple of things I want to send you. So be prepared. All right? All right.
Always.
All right. And if I can't get past you, I'll go to Marianne, because she's the sympathetic one, right?
Very.
Really?
You caught that from my diatribe there? Yes, I am.
Yeah, no, not really. Okay. All right. We'll see you guys later. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. We're talking water.
Bye, guys.
And healthy water, clean water when we come back.
The best thing about my job is the excitement of waking up every morning just wondering what the challenges are going to be that day.
So how do you like my office?
We lead with safety. It's the first thing that I think about when I wake up. It's the last thing I think about when I go to bed.
We've got a number of employees in the office, myself included, who've been around for 10, 15 plus years. So people enjoy working for the company. Staff retention's a thing that we're very, very keen on.
It's no secret that the world of arboriculture is a male-dominated industry, but there is a fearless group of women out there that are determined to change that, and I'm really proud to be one of those women.
At my office, I feel like you could take just about anyone, put a crew together and send them out to a job and have it be successful. And that has to do with trusting the people you work with, feeling safe around them, and knowing their strengths and weaknesses.
One of the proudest moments working with Bartlett for me was being the first to do training in a Spanish class.
Ya rompe el screen porch, el aire acondicionado.
Bartlett is all about promoting from within. We really want to focus on our people and make sure that they're trained, make sure that they understand their role, and you slowly grow through your experience, and then you improve and move on to different roles within the company.
There's always new positions, even at a base level, myself included. I started off as a climber and I've worked my way through to being local manager in the office.
Bartlett has been really great about recognizing any kind of roadblocks for different genders, different races, people of different nationalities, and just kind of taking a bulldozer to all of those roadblocks.
Every tree needs a champion.
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 At this time of year, we spend a lot of time indoors with our plants, so help them thrive. The plants you're viewing were treated with LeafZyme, a foliage spray designed to activate beneficial microbes already present on the leaves. A spritz every few weeks promotes growth-enhancing microorganisms that process dust and other particles into nutrition that indoor plants can absorb through their leaves for beautiful and vigorous growth. Go to blazing-star.com and check out their BioGarden line for home gardeners.
Welcome to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Green, gardening, and environment radio with just a soupçon of humor. Or is that a dash? Brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com. Here they are again, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
All I need is good food to eat and make me healthy, wealthy, wide awake. Lettuce, tomatoes, rutabaga. What about those sweet potatoes? All I need is good food to eat. All I need is good food to eat. All I need is good tools to make me music, porches, lawn serene.
And welcome back to the show. And I realized that we didn't ever get to the jumping worms issue, but oh well.
Next time.
Well, we'll talk jumping worms at some point. I'll tell you what. Perhaps we can bring in Alaina Harkness and ask her if you want to comment.
Alaina.
Do you want to comment on jumping worms?
Hi, Mike. Not jumping worms. I was going to comment on jumping puppies because we've given up on our garden. It was great to hear the garden chat, but we've got a pandemic puppy that's ripping out our garden. So I don't know anything about jumping worms.
This is
Sorry.
why I have a cat. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I would not make a good parent, and I would not, and I couldn't even handle a dog, but a cat is you don't have to let it outside. It's got a box. It goes in there. You only have to clean it once every half year, and then you move on. So, but
all about that. Thank you. Great to be back.
It's great, and as you notice this time. You're not lagging. Your video is not lagging behind your audio, which was so weird. You were on the very first show.
The very first, yeah.
Very first show we did on this platform with this software, and we thank you for being our guinea pig back in September.
And we thank you for coming back.
There we go.
It's right on brand for Current. We love to be out there in front, helping to work out the kinks, figuring out how it all works, moving it forward. So
yeah, well, Alaina is the executive director of Current, sometimes known as Current Water, sometimes Current Innovation. It's with a name like Current, there's a lot of different ways that people can go, and so you have to sort of define who you are. So I'm going to give you a chance to do the elevator speech and tell us what Current is all about.
Sure. So Current is a nonprofit water innovation hub that was launched here in Chicago in 2016. And really what we were formed to do was help bring together the kinds of collaborations among utilities, Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago, the Department of Water Management, research universities, national labs, entrepreneurs and startups, investors, everybody with a stake in solving the big complex water problems that are going to help us meet our needs now and in the future. And so Current was really started to be that nimble nonprofit to bring all those stakeholders together and help push towards faster and better solutions to water problems.
There we go. Okay, that's all the time we have. Good night, everybody. But no, you're doing a lot of you're working with a lot of different partners, which is part of what makes your organization so great. And you look at universities and companies and organizations like Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago, and that has been the goal. I guess that's not a goal, but a strategy of your company from the outset, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. So by mission, by design, universities, utilities, corporations, everybody is trying to sort of meet, the mission need that's right in front of them. Current exists to help find the really promising solutions at the gaps or in between where these collaborations can meet. So that's our whole job, is to see where there's opportunity if two sectors work together, or, in some cases like the projects we're going to talk about today, it's really bringing everybody to the table. It's working with the utilities and small startups that have promising technologies to address water challenges. And we're the glue that holds that together and helps to launch the kinds of demonstration projects that really can demonstrate the potential.
Now, is your vision primarily the Chicago region, or national, international, or anywhere?
So it's a great question. So we think about Current's mission in sort of three parts. The first is to really help to grow what we think of as the blue economy here in Chicago and the state of Illinois. So we're the only water innovation hub in Illinois. And so we're thinking a lot about what it means to create opportunities in the broader water space to grow, career pathways, jobs, get kids excited about career opportunities in water beyond maybe some of the traditional ways of thinking about that. And so for that, we're really thinking about helping companies locally and startups locally. And when we think about the problems that we're trying to solve, it's companies here that are solving the world's water challenges, whether it's water scarcity or overabundance. There's a lot of common issues that we're grappling with around the world, and the solutions we create right here can help to solve them.
You talked about the blue economy. Why does that seem like such a new phrase to me? I mean, perhaps in your line of work you hear it a lot, but I don't hear it. It's not something that's been used a lot in the work. And Peggy and I have talked environmental issues for years, for decades. The idea of a blue economy seems new to me.
Yeah, but green economy or green jobs probably isn't unfamiliar.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So I think the blue economy term, it started out really with folks working on ocean issues and trying to show that ocean and marine resources, really there's a whole bunch of specific industries that are about maximizing and protecting marine resources, but also leveraging them to solve society's problems. So the blue economy term has started to be applied to freshwater economies too. Obviously, ocean and marine is most of the water on the earth, but freshwater for us here in the Great Lakes matters a great deal. And so the term blue economy for us is a way of putting a sharp point on both the supply of water technology that's helping, big companies that exist here in Chicago, food and beverage, manufacturing, help them meet their ESG goals of reducing water consumption. But it's the demand side too. And so we're thinking about how to really make those opportunities clear. And blue economy is kind of popping up as a way of showing the world's water needs are really increasing, and the solutions are going to have to start coming faster. And so let's think about how to, draw a circle around that sector of the economy.
And that ties right in with World Water Day, which is March 22nd, tomorrow.
Which is tomorrow.
That's right.
Yeah, World Water Day.
That's right. Yep.
And one of the projects you're working on is something called H2 Now Chicago, a first of its kind effort for real-time testing of waterways for microbial pollution. I'm kind of surprised that hasn't been done. And we have a little video here that you sent, and it's about 30 seconds long, and you can talk over it while we're doing this. I can even freeze it if you want to show certain things, but this is kind of what are we seeing here?
Yeah, so this is a great example of what I mean when I say we're putting together projects that no one company or utility could tackle alone. So H2 Now Chicago, what you see here is our terrific sampling team, and we're out actually putting some, this is the sampling in the South Branch of the Chicago River. So we're collecting samples of river water, and this right here is the Proteus probe, and this is a company out of the UK that makes these novel probe technologies that help us measure what's in the water. So what we're basically doing out here as a team is testing to see how accurate the readings are, what's in the river versus what we predict through the probes, because eventually what we're hoping we'll have is a permanent installation of these probes that give us a permanent flow of real-time data about the fluctuating quality of the Chicago River, which is of interest to, really all Chicagoans for different reasons.
Well, for different reasons, one of which is that folks want to be able, I can even keep this here and put that in the corner there. It just sort of loops here, but we'll do that for just a little bit. It's of interest. Well, let's look at what happened the other day. Surprisingly, out of nowhere, the city decides we're going to put green dye in the Chicago River, and out of the blue, out of the blue economy, it suddenly became controversial in a way that it never has before. People,
especially when people copycatted it.
Yeah, and they on the North Branch of the Chicago River, and then Friends of the River came out and said, "Hey, we need to re-examine this tradition in Chicago because there are fish there now. There didn't used to be fish, and this is part of what you guys are all about. Is let's test the water. Let's show folks. You're not showing fish species. You're looking at biology in the river, but it's all connected, isn't it?"
It's all connected. It's all connected, and we, support. Friends came out and put out a really good kind of statement about this and some of the underlying concerns with dyeing the river. My personal position is not a current position. It's just there's a lot going on in the river already, so adding to that is not necessarily helpful. But that's the kind of thing we're trying to track with H2 Now. Conditions fluctuate in the river for all sorts of reasons. Increased rainfall is a big one here in the city, and as climate projections are sort of modeling out our future, those extreme rain events are likely to get more frequent and more intense. So understanding what the impact is on aquatic communities and on the overall health of the river that has become such a tremendous economic development asset for the city in recent years with investments along the Riverwalk, and we hope to be able to extend that for recreation and public health use. This is just something we need to know about, and I think part of the real interest in real-time data is to help understand and track that in closer to real time.
I go to your website, and I've got the links here at mikenovak.net and this week's blog post. If you go to currentwater.org, and you could actually just go to H2, the numeral 2, h2nowchicago.org, and you can see the H2 Now Chicago waterway monitoring page. And you state there on the page that you've got North Branch, Main Stem, and South Branch monitoring coming in spring 21. Had they launched yet? Is the website up to date? Because for instance, I click on the North Branch water quality page.
It says coming.
And it says, it says coming, but it also says there was a reading in 9/9/2019. So that was the last. So you don't have anything in real time at the moment, I imagine.
Well, so I can explain a little bit of this in the context that I think people will recognize. The pandemic slowed down this project quite a bit because we had to stop. You saw that video. We're out in the field. Now we've got sort of socially distanced, safe sampling protocol. But there's a lot of work to do to make sure we're confident in the data that we're putting out to the public. And so we have the data, the real-time data streaming. And when the sensors are installed in the river, we're able to see, but we're working with a large group of partners, Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, without whom this project would not be possible because they help us, do everything from install the probes to interpret the results. We have a scientific leadership committee comprised of our partners at the U of C, Northwestern, UIUC, UIC. All of them are helping us, at Argonne National Labs, they're helping us to understand and interpret what the data are telling us, because it's not straightforward. There's lots of projects to try to monitor water quality. That's not novel, but what's novel about this project is a particular kind of estimation that we're doing that's trying to tell us exactly sort of what's in the river. It's a particular fecal coliform level that we're looking to understand. So they're helping us make sure that what we get is right and that what we're communicating to the public is right.
You said the data is not straightforward. I'm kind of my ears perked up when you said that. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so if you imagine, sort of a red light, yellow light, green light, like is today a good day to use the river or not? I mean, there's a lot of desire to have something, like that. That's really clear and simple. And actually the number of variables of what's in the river are complex and changing all the time. And they don't necessarily mean, they don't necessarily lead to a result that's clear, right? So it could be
which point in the river as well.
Exactly.
Where is the sample being taken?
Where's the sample being taken? So the biggest thing with water quality monitoring is just all the variables. Where in the river, the flow rates changing, all of those things. Is there an outfall point nearby? So it's a really complex endeavor. And we're trying to sort through all of those different variables to understand what's meaningful to the public and what would the public be interested in. If you want to dive deep, there's a lot of information, and we'd love to make that available to people who are really interested in kind of getting into the weeds. But for most people, they just want to know, is it a good day to kayak or not?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. That was the point I was going to make, is that people don't like nuance. We talked about that in the first hour. And they want to know, can I swim in the river? Can I fish in the river? Is it safe to kayak in the river? And I can tell you, I did back for the show, we did a canoe trip from the Addison launch site downtown for Leinenkugel that did this thing.
That must have been what, 8 years ago?
Yeah.
7 years ago?
Yes, 8 or 9 years ago. It's at the time it seemed, the river seemed a little iffy to be in, but it was already improving. As you say, it's improved over the last couple of decades. But you can't really answer. So, okay, let me ask it this way. Are you prepared to make statements that are less nuanced to help people who can't handle that sort of thing?
So we're trying to understand now with our partners how much nuance and which audiences will be sharing which information. That's exactly what we're working toward right now. We don't want to be putting out information that so you don't want to put out information that people are going to interpret as the wrong set of decision points, right? You don't want to put out information that people go, oh, it's a yellow day, like I don't want to kayak. It might be totally fine to kayak that day. So we're really trying to figure out what's the level of nuance that matters. Ultimately, what we want this to do is drive awareness about the fluctuating quality of the river, which is in general trending in the right direction, right? So seeing that and being part of that change, we hope this will mobilize people to care about river stewardship in ways that might counteract some of the narratives. If you've grown up near a particularly polluted part of the Chicago River, you could be avoiding it, telling your kids to avoid it, and really the truth of it is that conditions are improving. So we just want to use as much quality data as we can to sort of get people aware, one, that in many places it's better than you might think, two, that it's changing, and three, that there's something that you can do, many things that you can do to help improve it, keep that continuum going,
And of course, you can volunteer for various organizations like Friends of the Chicago River. And of course, you're not the only one, as you say. You have many partners working in this. I mentioned the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago, Chicago Department of Water Management, Northwestern University, University of Chicago, Exelon, World Business Chicago are just a few of the people you're working with here. So they're all going to be part of this as well. One of the things you're doing in honor of Happy Water World Water Day. Yeah, World Water Day, and happy World Water Day tomorrow to everybody. Yeah, I know, let's make it Happy World Water Day. I was looking at my headline. There you go. Well, I've got my coffee.
It's got water in it.
You're going to be part of an open house tomorrow, 2021 World Water Day Great Lakes Open House. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're really looking forward to this. Mazarine Ventures, one of our partners and strategic advisors, put this together to highlight innovation hubs and pilot projects that are going on all around the Great Lakes region. So we'll have participation from our friends in Ohio and all around the Great Lakes region, which we're really excited about. So if you're interested in this idea of collaborative kind of hub-based problem solving in water, you're going to hear a lot of great examples from that tomorrow at the Mazarine event. So hope you'll join us. And of course, Current also, since the pandemic, we've really increased our virtual convening. We have a really robust set of virtual events, so you can always check those out on YouTube, and there's a lot to learn.
And anybody can attend this? You don't have to be a mover and a shaker?
Nope, totally open to the public, and registration's available online.
And by the way, the registration is available. You can click onto that link, go to my blog again at MikeNowak.net, scroll all the way to the bottom, and it says you can register here. And if you want to be part of that webinar, they're going to talk about, in the description, they write, instead of PowerPoints or pitches, a 60-minute tour will offer attendees a thumbnail of the region's heft in technology innovations that address water and wastewater challenges in agriculture, conservation, buildings, industry, and utilities. The participants, including Alaina, she's going to be one of the speakers, will spotlight the region's innovation ecosystem spanning testbed pilot, demo programs, corporate innovation, broader innovation ecosystem, including universities, startups, nonprofits, and talent. And I mentioned a lot of talent is involved in that. Yeah. What's business doing? I mean, obviously, you expect universities and agencies like MWRD and the water department to be working on the issues, but what are we getting from businesses?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Number one, as you heard in the Mazarine description, those are the pieces in the building blocks of the blue economy. And so for businesses in our region, some of them, like Greeley and Hansen, who's been a founder of Current and a anchor kind of corporate partner for us for a long time, they are clearly in the water business. They're doing water engineering. There's companies that are sort of building, the pipes, the technologies, the controls that we use to get clean drinking water and to clean our storm and wastewater. But then there's all the companies in food and beverage and manufacturing, in these water intensive industries that are trying to think about how to reduce their water footprint at a time when we know that is a growing need. So those are the companies that we think of as on the demand side of the blue economy, and we're looking to work with them to actually help find match our startups and entrepreneurs that have great ideas, match them with big industrial partners that need to find those solutions. We're really trying to make that match happen faster, get the innovative solutions on the radar of corporates that need to use them to make their water, lessen the water impact of their businesses quite frequently.
Before we go here, the urgent needs that you guys list are obviously water quality, and that's what we've been sort of focused on here is water quality, and obviously in terms of the Chicago River. Does that include Lake Michigan, or is it more of a focus on the river, Alaina?
So we're certainly interested in the quality of Lake Michigan. We have been working with partners at the Great Lakes Observing System, which is actually also really worth checking out. It's a network of partners that are all thinking about technologies to manage changing conditions in the lake. It's a really different, from a technology perspective, it's really different than river monitoring for some of the reasons we talked about. Changing flow rates, bigger body of water, concentration, all those things. But our partners at GLOSS and the Smart Great Lakes Observing Alliance are really helping us to work through that. But some of the other issues in the region that we are really concerned with and have a number of great partners working on include this rising rainfall, rising lake levels, things that contribute to flooding that are affecting basements on the south and west sides of Chicago quite often, and places where we really want to make sure we're not adding disproportionate burden to communities that are already suffering from a range of economic and public health and other effects. So the urban flooding issue is something that our partners at Center for Neighborhood Technology, the Metropolitan Planning Council, Nature Conservancy, everybody's sort of thinking about better ways to manage our rainwater and stormwater, because for us in this region, that's one of the primary ways that we're going to be feeling the effects of climate change.
Well, when you get the H2 Now Chicago up and running in real time, you've got to let us know, because I want to see those numbers. And I think obviously we're not the only people interested in the numbers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of organizations that want to see what's going on. When do you see that happening? How soon?
Well, I mean, we're on the pandemic calendar in a lot of ways, waiting for sort of CDC guidance about, how soon we can be back out at the level we need to be. But we're hoping to have something we can share with the public this summer. And that's kind of our aggressive ambitious timeline.
I like that.
Yeah, and then maybe you can walk us through the data at that point, too.
That's right. Yeah, we'd love to come back and do that. Yeah.
Okay, Alaina Harkness from currentwater.org. You can go there for more information about what they're doing. She's the executive director, and guess what? We got through this, and now we don't have to wait for your video to catch up to the audio, which is really good. We're very happy about that. So you got through the guinea pig part, and now you were in the part where things run smoothly. So we'd love to have you back again to talk more about this.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on getting to this place, and always a pleasure to talk.
All right, thanks so much, Alaina. Oh, and by the way, folks, if you want to be part of that webinar, 2021 World Water Day Great Lakes Open House, again, go to my website, scroll all the way down to the blog, the end of the blog post, and there's a link there, and you can be part of it as well. Thanks, Alaina. We will talk to you, I hope, very soon.
Sounds good. Take care. Thanks.
Bye-bye. It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Do we have any?
Yes, we have Rick. Rick's waiting.
Oh, okay. Let's do it. We'll be right back. You have the ability to give your soil a superpower. It's called composting. If you don't have a backyard, you need to contact Collective Resource Compost. CRC has diverted 7,000 tons of food scraps since 2010. They bring you a fresh 5-gallon bucket or a 32-gallon neighbor tote with each pickup. You fill it with organic matter from your kitchen, they swap it out and get it to a commercial composting operation. Fight climate change. Go to collectiveresource.us.
Hello from Happy Leaf. This is BJ Miller, the horticulturist here on staff. The best way we can help you be successful with indoor gardening is to provide you with a really great grow light. There are a lot of choices on the market, and it can be extremely confusing to decide what you need. Our goal here at Happy Leaf is to provide you with a light that lasts a very long time and makes your plants really happy. We have several satisfied customers, including our friends Mike Nowak and Peggy Malecki, because we have specifically designed a light that is versatile, it's very effective, and it is extremely simple to use. Our lights are perfect for seed starting, but you can do so much more, especially these months of the winter. You can supply yourself with your own leafy greens and herbs, grow lots of different types of vegetables, keep your small fruit trees thriving, and your houseplants will think you've sent them for a day at the spa.
From small boat fishermen to your dinner table with safe, free, no-contact delivery. Sitka Salmon Shares brings premium wild Alaska seafood to your door. They're a community-supported fishery offering shares just like your local CSA. All fish is wild-caught in season with respect for the limits of the ocean. Line-caught and traceable to their fleet. Use promo code NOVAC25 for $25 off the first month of a share. Go to sitkasalmonshares.com/NOWAK. The Evanston Environmental Association. Boy, I don't know what I'm going to do after the 26th because I won't be able to say that word anymore.
Oh, I'll find another way.
It's their virtual Wild and Scenic Film Festival, and it continues on March 26th. You can be there from your home. The final evening's film lineup includes the story of how some Ethiopians are protecting the biodiversity of old-growth woods via church forests. That sounds like an interesting concept. It's interesting. When Kathleen and I used to drive through the old-growth forest along Highway 101 in Washington State, when we had our home there, we called it the Cathedral of the Gods. That was our nickname for it, and it's what it looks like. And so this is a way to protect old growth. There's one community's efforts to close the largest East Coast oil refinery after an explosion, and a glimpse of what it might look like for conservation to include all people, even those that normally are in the margins. This festival takes place from 6:30 to 9 p.m. on March 26th, and tickets are available starting at just $10. All proceeds from the festival supporting the operations and programming of the Evanston Ecology. They support the operations and programming of the Evanston Ecology Center. For more information and to register, visit evanstonenvironment.org/filmfest. Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Let's bring in that meteorologist guy, Rick DiMaio. Hey, good morning, and happy spring.
Hi, Peg. Hi, Mike. In that order. Yeah, happy spring. But
woohoo!
You know, around here, we're only on the SPRI. The NG still is like the last 2 weeks of March and the first 2 weeks of April. But
and it kind of depends if you're close to the lake or away from the lake, or
Yeah.
And yesterday, Peg and I both felt that lake breeze kick in. This morning, not as much. The next few days, probably not at all. So we'll go in that kind of level as we typically do.
Uh-oh.
He's in the wrong room. Rick, you're in the wrong room. Oh, and I thought about that while he was there. I thought, he's in the wrong room. It's not close enough to the router. Or he could go to, like Marianne Willburn did, and go to a friend next door who has a strong...
Or turn your video off, Rick.
We'll just... we can pop...
I'll text him.
Okay, let him know. There he is. As soon as he gets back to audio... while we're here, I can talk jumping worms for just a second. For those of you like Ernest Renard who wants to know what a jumping worm, they're native to East Asia, and they got here all. I'm on the University of Wisconsin-Madison site in honor of Rick DiMaio. The jumping worm was found in. Oh, there he is. Hold on. Let's go back to Rick.
I don't know what happened there. Everything was working fine.
We'll see if it jumps again. You might have to go back to the other room. I just think your connection there is not as strong as it is in the other part of the house. But let's.
I'm in that other room right now. But.
Oh, you're
or maybe
in there.
turn your video off if that happens.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely do that. Yeah. When I start to see myself not moving around, then it's time to turn the video.
I was about to explain what jumping worms are, but I'll do it at the end of the show when we're done with you.
All the things that we learned during the pandemic and Zoom sessions and stuff like this can be summarized by what happened Wednesday night during my Loyola class when everybody was doing their presentations on climate change in the national parks. And this one group who was kind of going a little bit long in their discussion about the Rocky Mountains and the pine beetle and the fact that the devastation of the trees led to an increase in wildfires. So what I do is, and I've talked about this before, is it's one thing to teach climate change. It's another thing to try to get the kids engaged in weather and climate change. But it's another when you give them a project, and it's basically their park for about 2 months, and they do all the research on the climate of the state, the climate of the park, climate change in the state, climate change in the park, recent climatic events, and then they look at what are the adaptation and mitigation attempts, policies, whatever you want to call them, from both the state and the park. And then they also talk about, in the end, the 5 things that they've learned. And we had parks this past Wednesday, Denali, Glacier, Grand Teton, Yellowstone, Yosemite, Redwood, Joshua Tree. I'm trying to think of Zion, Everglades, Rocky Mountain Park. And the kids were talking a little bit too long. That's what happens when you get comfortable with a Zoom session. And then all of a sudden, one student, out of the blue, just blurts out, "Shut the F up already." And he didn't use the letter F. He used the whole word.
Wow.
And little did he realize that he was unmuted. So everybody heard it. Everybody heard it. And then on top of that, when you say stuff like that in the Zoom session, it's kind of like, remember Hollywood Squares when you talk, like the big square becomes illuminated?
Yeah.
Well, his square became illuminated.
And he showed up in speaker view.
Oh, no.
And he showed up in speaker view. Now, he had his video off, but he was unmuted. So not only did we hear what he said, but we saw who said it. And the great thing about Zoom sessions is they are recorded. And in addition to that, you have an audio track that is also put into the file. So that was about as unpleasant of a situation for him as there was possible. So he quickly sent me an email at the end of class saying that was unprofessional, blah, blah, blah. And I let him off the hook. I go, don't worry about it. I was probably yapping too much. I deserved it. And I don't think it was directed at me. It was directed at the girl who was just talking a little bit too much.
On the other hand,
yeah.
And all that stuff now. See, that's the thing with Zoom and all the stuff that's now live and recorded and sitting on the cloud. More things in that permanent record we were always warned about. It's now recorded. You can't get rid of it. It's somewhere.
Right. Yeah. So 5 years from now, Peg and Mike, when I'm trying to become part of this, big non-for-profit group here in Evanston, they'll go, well, we heard you once say on a Zoom session back in 2021, and we got it on tape, and we have it on basically an audio text. So yeah, you got to be careful about what you say and even what you think you want to say.
Right, and 100 years from now, that signal will be reaching another star system, and somebody will see the "shut the F up" from Earth.
Yeah.
Wow, they're hostile people. We must not go
They're
there.
that guy from Planet Earth, right? Anyway, but yeah, you know what? It's amazing, and I know, Peg, you've probably seen this. The snowdrops, the crocuses, the daffodils. Probably by this time next week will be in full bloom. Partly because over the next 2 or 3 nights, we're going to be increasingly warmer. So I think last night we made it down about 35. The night before, like 25. That was a lot of frost yesterday morning. Yeah. And that's that typical lake breeze comes in. You get that layer of moisture. It settles. You cool off. Boom, you get frost. This morning, 35. Tomorrow, maybe 45. And then Tuesday morning, maybe 50 for an overnight low. So This is when you really begin to see you're growing. Yeah, the humidity and the overnight low temperatures, the warm nights is what really gets things going. And even though we'll get, some decent rain and wind around here on Tuesday, there's really nothing in the way of any significant cold coming at us anytime soon. So things look pretty nice. Typical for this time of the year, but definitely we've been running a surplus of nearly about 6 degrees above normal for the month of March, which is remarkable considering how cold we were for the month of February.
Well, and the only thing that can ruin it, of course, is even if it stays a little bit warm, if we get those crazy rains like we've had in the past couple of years.
Yeah, I don't see that happening with the way that this La Nina pattern.
There's the La Nina, and the La Nina, and nobody said.
The jumping worms like the La Nina.
Nobody said shut the F up either. Okay, and he did. There he is. So let's pop this in. I was actually here trying to get my my crocuses up because I had a photo, and since he was mentioning, and it's not like they're just going to start now. The crocuses have been blooming for couple of weeks now. And if I pop that
my
in,
snowdrops have it. My trillium are starting to come up.
I've got so many different things coming up. So it's not, maybe it's his neck of the woods. Maybe it's a little slower near the lake.
Well,
for me,
it's a little colder near the lake. A lot of the early daffodils have buds, like Rick was saying, should be blooming next week.
Yeah. So let me go to, hold on a second. And if you give me just 2 seconds, I can get this and I'll show you what's going on in my yard. There we are. There's 321. Let's load the crocuses. Boom. I wasn't ready. I wasn't going to do this, but then when he mentioned it, I thought, okay, here we go. And here are the crocuses. I'll bring these
Ooh,
guys.
Pretty.
This is there's a bunch of patches.
How nice.
In the
and
backyard.
I see you've got some strawberries in the foreground too.
Yeah, you know what? I leave them now. I don't really get strawberry production out of them.
No.
Just not enough sun. And when we do get strawberries, unless we cage them, the critters will get to them at some point.
Well, that's who they're for.
Yeah, except when you look at the Environmental Working Group's Dirty Dozen list. Did you get a copy of that in the email this week? No?
No, I seem to actually be off that email.
Wow. Okay, but
I'm not getting that newsletter.
as always, strawberries are at the top of the list. The Dirty Dozen, meaning the ones that have commercial strawberries. I suppose if you buy organic strawberries, you won't have that issue. But what are people buying? They go to the grocery store, they see the clamshell with the strawberries in them, they're picking that up, and that is the worst.
Go to the big box,
right. So
those strawberries are. What's the name of those again? I forgot.
Which
ones
ones
in your yard?
Oh,
The
Marshall.
plants in your yard.
Marshall.
Marshall strawberries.
And Rick is he's back.
He's back.
And there's my front.
Okay.
Well, we were just talking about strawberries and crocus and looking at Mike's.
Right, and let me show this again. I'll pop this up because while you were gone, I put this in here, and these are the crocuses in my backyard.
Isn't that pretty?
Wow, that is really remarkable. And those are all things that you planted like last year, right?
No, this is like 15 years worth of work, and then they start all popping up, and I got them all over the lawn. I put them in the lawn too because I figure I'm not walking out there at this time of year, so this is a good place to. Yeah.
I've seen a couple homes just as I'm out for a walk with the aconites, the yellow, popping up all over the place. I don't have any of those, but those look so nice as well.
Yeah,
the little teeny.
So the point I was making, Rick, is that my crocuses have been going for 2 weeks, and I probably will have daffodils bloom today. I was looking at them yesterday. They're so close. I think that I'm going to pop some daffodils today. Yeah. So the weather's been great, especially out front on our southern exposure. There's been plenty of sun. It's just gotten a little bit warmer with each day. And
out on the parkway where you're not supposed to plant, right?
Exactly, where I will get a ticket, a $600 ticket from the city of Chicago. You know what I say? Bring it on. Come on, bring it on.
Hey, really? You're not allowed to plant in the parkways?
Theoretically, the parkway is city property, and nobody enforces it. They do not enforce it, but theoretically, you need to get a permit to plant anything in your parkway except for lawn. So, well, certainly.
Good thing I didn't know that when I lived in the city for 15 years.
Well, I do it anyway, and a lot of people do, and they don't come after you unless they think they're weeds. I mean, if you come to my front parkway in about 2 weeks, it's going to be a riot of blooms. And I've had people who walk by and they stop and they say, "Oh, we love walking past your garden." Yeah. Right. And so that's why I want this, if the city's going to come after me, I'm going to bring these people to court with me.
Yeah,
so
I don't get that at all.
Be careful what you ask for.
I know. No, I know. I'm poking the bear, and I'll be careful about it. I'll just shut up at this point. All right.
So
back to the weather.
So I know that we were talking about how to engage students in understanding more about climate change. And it really is remarkable to me that you can get kids who have never been, west of the Mississippi River, all of a sudden go, wow, I didn't know that about Rocky Mountain National Park. And I didn't know that about Glacier National Park. And I didn't know that about, Olympic National Park. And what they do on top of learning about the climate is they also learn what sort of economic engine national parks are to the state and the surrounding communities. So one of the things that they have to do is they have to look at it not just 1 year, but like a 5-year trend and see what happens when your national parks are either shut down because of either A, a pandemic, which everybody is, or B, shut down because of wildfires, or the roads leading into those areas shut down because of needing to fight wildfires nearby, or glacial melt. We've had a couple of years in the past where we've had too much rain in Olympic National Park, and you have this glacial melt or a mud flow that basically knocks out one of the roads or the bridges. And Mike, you know that road that leads into Olympic National Park. It's like one road, and that's about it.
Yeah.
What is it? Quinault Lodge? Is that the one I'm referring to?
Well, that's along the Quinault, Lake Quinault, the Quinault Lodge there, and yeah, those things happen where you can get. Mostly, what happens is that trees fall, and you got a lot of rain, and then it's a little bit of wind, and then you'll have a tree just flop over the road, and then you got to wait till somebody shows up with a chainsaw.
Right. So what these kids are doing, because I'm teaching mainly non-science, students, is they learn more about the economics, and then they learn about, the policy, because most of the land in Wyoming is federal. So this is one of those things that it engages them, and it makes them understand that the national park is not, it's not a theme park, but yet it's a park that, basically connects people from other parts of the United States with their local community. And that's really one of the ways that you'll get people shop and go to these restaurants and stay in hotels. It's not going to be the locals. It's going to be the people who are visiting the park. And as soon as you start to see pictures of, 30,000-foot plumes of smoke coming out of Yosemite, you go, maybe not this year. So the more that the students understand that it's not just about keeping the park healthy and sustainable, it's more of an economic engine as well. And I take pride every year in making sure that I can check off, a couple of students that go, wow, I got it, wow, I got it, wow, I got it. Some will do it because I have to do it. And I'm still trying to figure out how to do that more around here with, forest preserves and, thinking about what it takes to maintain a golf course. Mike, when we saw your friend up there at the
North Shore Country Club. Yeah. Dan Dinelli, who just does a fabulous job, and he's growing native plants, and he's using compost and just being as green as he possibly can on a golf course, which is tough.
Yeah, and I wish more people would think more about what goes into making the golf courses look the way they do, because we all know you drive up, you get out of your car, you go to the pro shop, you go to the starter shack, and you play golf, and then you're done. And usually by the time you're about halfway through the back nine, you're either really happy or you cursed golf for the rest of your life. And the last thing you want to know is think about all the things that go into a golf course, which there are a lot. So I'm thinking that maybe next year I'm going to do something different where I start to include some more regional and some more local things.
I'll bet you could get Dan to do a Zoom for you. He would be fascinating to get on there. He's so good at what he does.
Yeah, because even this year with Loyola's Climate Change Conference, which was mainly virtual, I was kind of looking at our speakers, and I felt like, again, they were taking steps, and I probably shouldn't say this because we're being recorded, but they're taking steps that are going so far ahead of the curve that I think the students have in their brains. It's like you open up the textbook and you go, wow, this is what they're doing. In other parts of the world, we have to do the same thing here. But you don't have to do that. You can just literally go to the next neighborhood over. So, yeah, I think that's a good idea, Mike, is do something more like that. And I think we did that a few years back at the Botanical Gardens, which was become a little bit more localized. Every once in a while, as well as you think you may have checked off a box, there's always another way of doing it a little bit better. So that's my next goal. That's my next challenge.
Well, speaking, however, of national parks, I just went to a site to see the 10 most visited national parks in 2020, which is kind of interesting because it was the pandemic year. So, and I wonder how that would compare. Let's look.
I know what number one is. It's the same one every year.
Yes, it is. And you, Peggy, do you know what it is?
I could guess, but go ahead. We don't have that much time.
Put it this way. You do this.
Good.
You drive through.
Go ahead.
Smoky Mountain.
Right. Ding.
Okay.
The Great Smoky Mountains National Park is number one.
Because I'm also reading the restream here. So.
Oh, okay.
But
And
that's because you drive through it. You drive through it.
yeah, and last year, it beat number 2 by 3 times as many visitors. I mean, there were 3 times as many visitors to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park as there were to number 2, and number 2 would be.
Oh God, I want to say Yellowstone.
Correct. All right.
Yeah.
Number three is Zion National Park. 4 is Rocky Mountain National Park. 5 is Grand Teton. 6 is Grand Canyon. I'm surprised Grand Canyon is that low. Number 7, Cuyahoga Valley National Park.
In Ohio?
I believe so. Yeah. 8 is Acadia National Park. 9 is the Olympic National Park, which you mentioned, and 10, Joshua Tree National Park.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? One of the amazing things about Joshua Tree, I opened up my list a little bit more this year, and I never did Joshua Tree because I thought it was kind of a minor park, but it is one of the most used parks for camping. And one of the things that the National Park Service is always doing is they go, come visit, but not so much. So you have all these people who camp, and you know what their number one problem there at Joshua National Park is?
What?
Is getting rid of trash. Just getting rid of trash.
Oh,
because so many people use it, and they don't have enough bins, and they don't have enough recycling. So they've actually gone back and revisited how they're recycling and how they have people use it. Obviously, during years of extreme drought, which is almost every year because you're in the desert. But the few times I've been through Great Smoky Mountain National Park now 3 times. Mm-hmm. It's just a drive fest. That's all. Everybody just drives, and they get and they look around, and they get back in their cars and drive.
There are a lot of trails, though. I mean,
there are tons of trails. Yeah.
A couple of great comments here. Tracy DeMarco writes, "Surprised no students research Shawnee National Forest because it's right in Illinois." I don't know if that
because it's not a national park.
It needed to be a national park. Okay. And Dennis Dreyer writes, Lake County Forest Preserve District is addressing climate change by experimenting with seeding their restoration projects with wildflowers and grasses procured from hundreds of miles south.
That's a big project from a different zone. They're bringing up seeds.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Because we've gone to like more zone 6 here than ever before. Am I right about that, Peg?
Yeah, we're getting close to zone 6 here. I mean, along the lake, it's been zone 6 for a while, and it's inland. It's harder to judge, but those zones are creeping. They're creeping up. So
yeah, and you know what? Real quickly here, because I know we're running out of time, but they got a pretty good climate change program at Lake Forest College. And every year the department chair there goes, in the future, we may need you to teach up here. Let me know your availability. Every year I say I'm available, but they always have someone else online or in line as opposed to going to me, which is fine. I got other stuff to do, but they got a pretty good bunch of classes up there at Lake Forest College. So yes, I think this is the thing Tracy talks about Shawnee National Forest. I may kind of break it down and kind of go more regional. And the only reason why I do national parks is this way it keeps the rubric similar from a standpoint of federal, state, and then also the information that they can get is a little bit easy to do. So part of it is I make it easier for me to grade, which is the number one goal of a teacher, is make your grading easier. But if I can expand it a little bit more, regional things like, a golf course, Lake Forest, Forest Preserve District, or Shawnee, I'll definitely do that. As long as I can have Tracy help me grade my papers.
Okay, Tracy. The gauntlet
Get your orders, Tracy.
has been thrown. So, all right, have you got a forecast for us?
Oh God! So sunny today, sunny tomorrow. 60 inland today, 50 literally right along Sheridan Road east. Overnight low about 40 to 45. That's about 10 degrees warmer than yesterday and about 10 degrees warmer than Friday night. Lower 60s everywhere during the day on Monday. Southwest winds. Lower 60s on Tuesday, but windy with rain developing in the afternoon. And we'll probably get about maybe a half inch. We've been dry. We've actually been really dry over the last 3 weeks. And next week, we'll probably talk a little bit more about that. But it does look like we turn cooler, but only maybe lower 50s for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Next week looks interesting. It could be a pretty significant storm that sits right over northern Illinois. I have not looked at any data yet this morning, but it definitely looks to be a much, much more unsettled weekend next weekend. So if you want to get out about and do a bunch of things today or tomorrow, if you have tomorrow off, definitely do it, because today and tomorrow look to me like the best 2 days of the next 7.
All righty. Yeah, we saw
all warmer, above average temps.
Well, warmer today, tomorrow, and then Tuesday, and then a slow downtrend. So the next
but still above average.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, Peggy, at a normal high is close to 48, but I think over the next 5 days, 5 to 10 degrees above normal, both at during the daytime and at night. And the nighttime warmth is really important. You talked about that before the humidity.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Rick, have a great week. Talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Later, guys.
Bye-bye. We're basically out
overtime.
of time. Yeah, we are in overtime. So let's just do this. Thank everybody who was on the show today. The Garden Ranters, Marianne Willburn, and Susan Harris, Alaina Harkness from currentwater.org. By the way, you can go to gardenrant.com as well. Want to thank Rick, Kathleen, Lagata, Basil the dog. Have we forgotten anybody?
I think we're good.
I think, okay. Well, then, and until next time.
And our listeners.
And our listeners, of course. Thank you guys for writing in. Oh, we'll talk jumping worms next week. Until next time, go green or
go home.
Stadler?
Yeah, what?
Is that it?
Yes, it's over. How'd you like it?
I don't know. I slept through the whole thing.
Well, you didn't miss much.